time for the 360 round. We're taking a look at the auto sector and the impact tariffs will have on that group. We're expected to see big impact. For that, I want to bring in our panel. We've got Rebecca Lindland, Managing Director for Allison Worldwide, and Anthony Sassine, Senior Investment Strategies, Crane Shares. Thank you both for joining us. Rebecca, I'll start with you. Give me your assessment of the auto tariffs and your expectation for the impact. Who stands to be hurt the worst? Who stands to benefit from your view, Rebecca?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me on. So we certainly see Ford in a very good position. They have about 80% of their vehicles sourced in the US, followed closely by Tesla. But really, all manufacturers are facing some kind of vulnerability because so many of the parts go back and forth between borders. And also, many of them are imported, particularly when we think about engines, transmissions, powertrain, even your infotainment system. Every manufacturer is vulnerable to the parts part in particular.
That makes sense, Rebecca. Anthony, I'm curious to hear your thoughts, especially because even Elon Musk said, look, they have some exposure as well. So Rebecca makes a great point about the parts component. I mean, we're going to see major tariffs on this sector. We're already seeing some car makers shift their plans. Jaguar Land Rover announcing it'll pause all shipments to the U.S. Your thoughts on the impact to the sector?
Yeah, we're in no man's land now. I mean, this is going to shake up the U.S. auto industry in a big way. Tesla have a very small impact here, especially from the reciprocal tariffs from China. I mean, Chinese EVs probably are most disadvantaged with these policies. They don't have any presence in the U.S., but still they face the highest tariffs, followed by Japanese and European cars, the European car makers. The beneficiaries here, I agree, it's Ford, mostly because of its integration locally and then USMCA compliant parts. GM to follow. Tesla is a big beneficiary here, and then Hyundai as well have been building local plants, and they've been localizing for the past 3 years, 4 years. They're also benefiting from these policies.
Okay, Rebecca, I want to get your thoughts on this. Obviously, some of this move from the White House, from President Trump, is to bring back some manufacturing to the U.S. It does take years, though, to build up these factories and, for instance, retool factories. Do you expect Ford to be at the forefront because of their already positioning, or do you expect others to gain some ground? Could we even see some international car makers bring some of their manufacturing to the U.S.?
Well, we already do see, as Anthony points out, we already do have quite a bit of local production by foreign manufacturers. So BMW is actually celebrating, I believe they have a headquarters of 50 years, and then their plant in Spartanburg produces almost all of their SUV or SAV, as they call them, lineup. And of course, Mercedes has a big plant in Alabama, Hyundai and Kia, Volkswagen. So there's a lot of manufacturers that produce in the US. Almost every Acura from Honda is produced here. So there's a lot of local production that's already occurred. But again, it's the supply chain. And this is what's so challenging to turn around, is the complexity of the supply chain cannot be underestimated. We do see companies like General Motors already shifting light duty pickup production. So they produce their light duty vehicles in both the US, Canada, and Mexico. They're looking at centralizing production into Fort Wayne, Indiana, in order to avoid any hint of tariffs. So it just depends upon the flexibility that a manufacturer has, whether they can make a sudden or quick move to change their production location. But it's much more difficult, even more difficult, I should say, to change supply chains.
Anthony, earlier Rebecca talked about Ford obviously benefiting because of how their production occurs from the current setup. Ford also instituting these employee discounts to try to kind of spur more demand. Stellantis coming to the table and matching that, but for a shorter time period. Stellantis saying their employee discount will be effective till the end of this month. Ford has a longer time window. Do you think that will be helpful at all to the industry, or is that just essentially pulling forward some demand?
Well, no tariffs can be helpful to any industry here, but this will give a little bit of an advantage to some of the local companies like Ford, GM, and Tesla specifically. Ford is not exposed because they don't have much anywhere else, right? And a lot of their production happens in between Canada, US, and Mexico. And they don't have any other models to keep up. Although their stock is doing fine this year, it's probably one of the or only positive automakers year to date. But I don't see a long-term growth driver for this company. I mean, in the long term, the whole industry is going to fall behind its peers in China and Europe, because of lack of competitiveness and lack of innovation here. And they're not going to be able to compete on cost if they can't sell in other places like China. So the long term is in my opinion going to be negative on the U.S. auto industry.
All right, certainly seem to be reflecting that way, especially when we look at the broad market action. Anthony Sassine, Rebecca Lindland, Anthony Sassine of Crane Shares, Rebecca Lindland of Allison Worldwide. Thank you both for your time.